Picture this. The year is 1999. You are in fact 9 years old. How does it feel to be a dumb little and you want to see a movie, but you just don't know which movie you want to see? And so you go into the theater and you're looking around at what's playing, and you see Muppets from Space. That's dumb. Inspector Gadget? No? Go Gadget that out of my face, because yucky. I don't want to see that. The Country Bears? Oh, shoot. I gotta wait 3 years for that one. Frick, that sucks. And then as you're looking, you see something, a poster that catches your eyes, and it's Tarzan. And then you go see Tarzan, and then you sing Phil Collins songs in the car ride home. No. You just failed the test. You weren't supposed to see Tarzan. That's Brad's competition. Do you know Brad, the director of The Iron Giant? He freaking hates Tarzan, dude. Why'd you do that? In 29 years of your life that you've lived, the biggest thing you've added to in the entire world is made The Iron Giant flop hard at the box office. But what if I told you that you yourself didn't make this movie fail, but it was already set up to fail? And it turned out to be...
Damn.
Before we talk about The Iron Giant and the masterpiece that it is, a forgotten one that is as well, we have to talk about who, in fact, made The Iron Giant. And that is Brad Bird, the freaking legend himself. What I find interesting about Brad Bird is before he started out making cooking tutorials with rats, Fantastic Four, the good one, and Fantastic Four, the one with better animation, he started out with The Iron Giant. And before starting out with The Iron Giant, he was making some Simpsons cartoons. And before he was making Simpsons cartoons, he got fired from Disney. Now guess who's glad they reopened their doors to Brad now, huh? No, Brad was passionate about film since birth, basically, because he literally came out of the womb with storyboards in his hands. And Brad Bird really wanted to work for Disney, and he started out making short films, short animation, and then he finally gets to start working at Disney when he's after college. But the thing was, when he got his job at Disney, all of his idols and the people that he looked up to in animation were gone. And because of that, what we got in the movies was formulaic, basic movies, which, coming up with words to describe Brad Bird's movies, you can't exactly say that, because Brad Bird's passionate about telling stories, not passionate about getting that money. That was cringy. I'm sorry. That was bad. Frick, dude. Are you messing this up? And because of the differences between what Disney thought their movie should be and what Brad thought their movie should be, there was extreme conflict, and then Brad gets fired from Disney, and the bird has left the nest. And bada boom, bada bing, Brad then gets chosen by the bros. The Warner Bros, that is. And he is chosen to make a movie. But the thing is, the bros are like, frick. We don't know what movie we should make. Brad, help us out. Which movie are we gonna make, Brad? Tell us right now what the bros do. Give Brad some selections, and what Brad chooses is this Iron Giant musical. And because the bros had a rivalry between Big Man Walt, they were like to Brad, you got fired from Disney. Let's show them who's boss. Let's make a freaking masterpiece of a movie. Let's show them. And that's what Brad did. Not because he took the Iron Giant musical, but he transformed that idea and took it from the OG source, the Iron Giant book, and took that and took some inspiration and came up with this idea. He has this idea that what if a gun had a soul? And what if the gun was... Now, the Iron Giant is a part of an elite subgenre of films called Friendly Monster Takes a Vacation to See a Child. That sounds weird. And if we look at what we have in store in this elite subgenre, and maybe pick out some that are like, that doesn't really have to do with the Iron Giant. And if we see, the Iron Giant has direct similarities between Mac and me, E.T. We got this misunderstood child who befriends this monster who also doesn't have the greatest family life. But oh no, as he's being friends with this friendly creature, the FBI shows up and's like, this is kind of dangerous, kid. Where the frick is this guy? And it's kind of a shame that the Iron Giant gets overshined by E.T. Not because E.T. is a terrible movie at all, but I feel like the Iron Giant just has something more to say, and its themes are just greater and more impactful than E.T.'s themes of, I don't even know, friendship. And even though the Iron Giant is this physical, just intimidating thing, we also see the good in what the Iron Giant is.
Shut off switch. You saw me save you.
And it shows and makes sense why this kid would be hanging out with this 50 feet tall, massive robot, other than the fact that he literally has no friends. And even though Kent Mansley and the military, we're supposed to root against them, but we can see why they would be afraid and why they would be trying to get the Iron Giant down. And E.T., the FBI is just a cartoony, faceless figurehead that is just the bad guys because the movie needs it. And not only through these characters, we see just random side characters throughout the movie, their complete perspective on this creepy, mysterious, large robot is. Because the first scene starts out with Willem Dafoe, and he's trying to get back to the lighthouse, but then he literally sees this 50-foot tall thing that he thinks is a lighthouse. And then he tells people in the cafe,
maybe it was a Sputnik.
The start of the movie is literally something that you'd see in like Jaws or Alien, not something like the Iron Giant. And that's exactly why I love this movie.
What kind of a sick person would name a kid Hogarth? Hog Hug. Hog Hug!
And we also see Hog Hug's first impression of the Iron Giant, because after he's told by Willem Dafoe in the cafe about this Iron Giant, he gets really curious and he goes out and to the power lines, power station, power tower. Let's just call it power tower. So he goes to the power tower and sees this giant, creepy looking, mysterious robot. But then the Iron Giant gets electrocuted in the power tower. And because we see the Iron Giant screaming in pain, we see that he's something more than just this faceless robot. He actually indeed does have a soul. And then we see the connection between Hogarth and the giant and why he would want to take care for this robot, because he sees the humanity in something that's not human. And if we take a peek in this elite subgenre, these scenes are played out more like this.
Meow?
Now, if we take the Iron Giant out of this elite subgenre and maybe pop it into a movie series, I'm going to ask you at home, which movie series could the Iron Giant be a part of? Okay, the timer's going now. Say it into the mic for me. Paul Blart? No! It's Superman. Because the Iron Giant is my favorite Superman movie. Now, if we get into the specifics, technically, the Iron Giant isn't a Superman movie. I just thought it sounded cool, and like probably no one has ever said it before, so I just want to say that. But if we change the name of the Iron Giant to Clark Kent, make him a human instead of a robot, tweak some things here and there, give the main protagonist more lines to say and a better vocabulary. So don't let Vin Diesel play him again.
When did this turn into Beautiful World?
And people would be saying it's like the best Superman origin story. In fact, I think that the modernized interpretation of the classic Superman character by Zack Snyder. In fact, I think the modern interpretation of the beloved classic character by Zack Snyder is a ripoff. It's a ripoff. It's a ripoff of Iron Man. It's a ripoff of the Iron Giant. So an alien creature that lands on Earth is confused about the world itself and needs people in his life to educate him about it. Number 2, because of his powers, he starts out sacrificing himself and heroically saves people. But that's a big no-no because people shouldn't know he or his powers exist. People feel frightened about his unlimited powers and that makes them feel very sad. The last one, number 4, at the end, he creates a big destructive mess in town. But an interesting thing that doesn't take place in Man of Steel but is brought into the next thing, Batman v Superman, Jesse Eisenberg forces Jolly Ranchers in your mouth, is that Superman is known to the people as the villain, which in the Iron Giant, I think it takes a more interesting approach and further develops it. Because the Iron Giant, he sees Superman comics and he sees, oh, that's the hero. And then he sees Atomo and he's told by Hog Hug, that's the bad guy. Which, if you think about it, the character design for Atomo and the Iron Giant at the end of the movie when he turns evil are really similar. But the thing is with the Iron Giant, after finding and discovering about death itself through this dead deer, he then finds Hog Hug, who he thinks is dead, and that makes him feel bad about himself. And then he takes away the S, the Superman S, that represents hope and peace, and it symbolically shows that the Iron Giant thinks he's the villain. But thankfully, the Iron Giant didn't do that, and he chose who he wanted to be at the end of the day. Just like how Brad Bird chose what his movie wanted to be like. Now, after the Iron Giant got that green light pass from the studio, Brad Bird got a bunch of just roadblocks before crossing that finish line. Because Brad Bird got the third of a normal budget for an animated movie of its size, and also got half the time to finish it. And with all the big boy artists from DreamWorks and Disney doing other projects, Brad Bird had to collect the scraps. He had to bring in the amateurs. The people that they didn't even know what they were doing, honestly. And now, after all these roadblocks, the studio is also like, how about we make the decision on who we want in your movie? Which Brad Bird was like, no, that's not happening. Because thankfully it didn't happen, because in the original cut of what Warner Bros. Wanted, it was literally John Travolta as Dean the Cool Machine and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Kent Mansley? So thankfully Warner Bros. Didn't get their way, because their strat to cast 90 superstars in their movies didn't really end so well. Because their film starring Cary Elwes, Gary Oldman, and some other guy I'm forgetting, Quest for Camelot, completely tanks and bombs at the box office. And Warner Bros. Is freaking out. It's a code red. Red standing for that's really embarrassing, dude. And because of the Quest for Camelot bombing, Warner Bros. Was like, yeah, let's just give up. But whoa, hold on, bros. Brad Bird, he's making a movie back there. But the bros were just in full panic mode that they literally didn't care. And the thing was with that is that they weren't in Brad Bird's face throughout this whole thing. So Brad added so much creativity and just creative decisions that I don't even know if they would be allowed or be in the film to this day.
Mom says it's something inside of all good things, and that it goes on forever and ever.
And the Iron Giant not only does things like having great scenes like that in there, but also has great transitions. No, not that kind of transition. Oh, no, not that kind of transition. Oh, sorry. I just thought it was. I thought it was kind of cool. That wasn't cool. Okay, just take this out. Sure, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Honestly, just delete this whole part. It's going on for too long. Because how the Iron Giant transitions from being goofy and fun and haha, Kent Mansley, you have explosive diarrhea, to literally having scenes like, yeah, the Iron Giant, did you know that you're probably gonna die? That's wild how great they were able to transition from this to then this. And the reason why these transitions are so great is because they never mix. For example, the scene where the Iron Giant is fixing the railroad because the train is about to crash, there's no joke in there of, oh no, the Iron Giant is so stupid, he doesn't know how to put the railroad tracks. There's no joke like that. Because if there was, the stakes, the consequences, the threat of the Iron Giant dying, that would just be completely gone and deflated because of that. As well as goofy scenes not really having any consequences. Because another example, like Hog Hug and the Iron Giant and Dean, they're having a good time. The Iron Giant does a humongous splash, makes a big wave. Dean goes out in the middle of the road, but he doesn't get hit by a car, or none of them die, which it's not really realistic at all. But if it was realistic, then it would just be really off-putting. But scenes do transition to being fun, to being darker, which a scene like this, when the Iron Giant almost kills Hog Hug, just gives more fear to these characters, which I like because they're having a good time, and then bam, the Iron Giant snaps, gets some Vietnam flashbacks from seeing a gun, and then almost kills Hog Hug. It gives off this, like, oh, this movie can go there, which is freaking amazing, dude. And not only are scenes being transitioned from being goofy to more serious, darker tones, but also characters, because our main Ginge villain, winner of the longest chin, Kent Mansley, goes from this guy who is so obsessed with the Iron Giant that it's funny, like, haha, you can't find him, bro, that sucks for you. But then he's so obsessed with catching the Iron Giant that it's threatening and creepy to these characters, because Kent Mansley basically makes Hog Hug sacrifice the only thing that he has left other than the giant to give up the giant's location, which is his mother, which is added into the mix, which you didn't think. I haven't even talked about the mother. Even though she's a minor character, she's perfectly added into the mix. And having characters transition from being goofy to more darker is something that Brad Bird continues to use in his film. In The Incredibles, Syndrome is the more goofy villain type guy, but he's also extremely threatening and is never a complete parody, which makes him a really threatening character to the Incroyables. The point I'm trying to make is that without Brad Bird, this movie just would be completely different, or would just be non-existent, because Brad Bird's passion just oozes out throughout this whole movie, like jelly out of a jelly donut, or like the ooze in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Secret of the Ooze. I haven't watched that one, so tell me how the ooze is out of 5. Thank you. And when Brad Bird's hard work is done, the Warner Bros. Are like, yeah, I don't know what to do with this, because the Iron Giant had no release date, and it should have been promoted and been marketed, because films that were coming out the next year, like Tarzan, already had their promotional material ready, and people knew that Tarzan was coming. So then, in a desperate attempt, the crew members literally leaked footage that wasn't finished yet on this movie website, and that gave it some buzz. Test screenings were happening. Audiences and critics were loving it. But the thing was, Warner Bros. Was like, oh, Brad actually made a good movie? What? Frick, I didn't think that was gonna happen. But the crew was fearing that if this movie kept on getting delayed, it might not even be released. So the Warner Bros. And Brad Bird came to the decision to release it in the summer, which at that point meant they had only 4 months to market it. And let me tell you, they had no idea how to market it. What is this? What is this? What is this? As we all know, The Iron Giant didn't exactly do well at the box office, and even though it does get talked by lots of people to this day and loved by other people, the thing is, people haven't been talking about why they love it so much, and that's exactly why I wanted to make this video, because behind things like the great stylistic choices of having it being taken place in the 50s to give it this more timeless feel to it, having great charismatic characters, just having really just cool scenes, and having this childlike wonder to it, because literally the whole movie's in the perspective of a child. There's more to it. There's themes of death and what happens after death and sacrificing yourself, and Leo, and it gives us something to think about. And without Brad Bird, it wouldn't have made it to the final cut, because Brad Bird added personal experience, because before making it, there's a death in his family caused by gun violence, and that made him come up with the idea, what if a gun had a soul? And that theme resonates throughout the whole movie, with the Iron Giant abandoning the sign of peace because he thinks he's a weapon, which he's not, because he chooses who he wants to be. And it's kind of like a redemption in his character arc, with him thinking that he's one thing, thinking that he's the villain, but then realizing that he doesn't want people to die for what he has done. But the Iron Giant decides, hey, I don't want these people to die, and he sacrifices them, and he dies. Technically, they show at the end like pieces of him coming back together, but that's because they don't want kids to cry that Iron Man died, that Iron Giant died. Iron Man did die, and it shows that even when the Iron Giant is gone from the town, he's not forgotten, because souls don't die. And hopefully this movie doesn't get forgotten about how great it truly is. And that's all I have to say about the Iron Giant. If you like this video, I don't know, give it a like. And if you're feeling a little more wild, pop a comment. And if you want to see more cool boys like this one, I don't know, maybe subscribe, you dummy. Now for the epic pen flip that you've waited for.